And snow finally melted. Whew, that took a while. Time to get outside and get to work. But where do we start to make sure the lawns and the gardens are looking their best?
Well, garden guy Dale Kay, he's got the answers for us this morning. And today he's answering your lawn and garden questions. I know every time you're here, we pepper you with a million questions. So I know other people have questions too.
You know, a sure sign that spring is on the way when, you know, you start getting all these gardening questions. It feels a little bit more like spring.
Yeah.
Like,
next week as well.
Ready to dust it off. All right, first question. Diane. She says her front yard is all shade and right now it's mostly mud. She doesn't want to seed with grass or put sod down. What are alternatives?
So it's actually a really good question, and actually one of my favorite questions to answer is, you know, there's some places too that grass just doesn't grow because it is too shaded. So the good news is there are some alternatives to planting a lawn. I got some of them here, and excuse, they're not like, these plants have just come out of dormancy. You know, it's been quite cold, so they're not like lush and green, but this particular one here, cushion spurge, or pachysandra, is a great lawn alternative for shade. And shade is trickier again, but it's like a lush little green plant. It's a ground cover, spreads, and does quite well in the shade. The one in front here is called Vinca minor, and that one is even a little bit more prostrate or flat to the ground. It has a little purple flower on it, which is quite nice, but that also does quite nice in the shade. Also, lady's mantle up here, bearberry, and I want to show that one. I'll put that one right in front of the camera there. It's actually micro clover. And of course there's red and white clover, great for bee attracting, but micro clover is even kind of smaller again, and it has a very small leaf, so it's very kind of grass-like, and it'll actually grow underneath grass. So if you're having trouble in shade with thinning out, you could also take a little look at this as an alternative or something to supplement your grass seed with. So that's micro clover.
Is this something where you would pick one and that's it, or can you mix and
You could mix and match, but if you want to, you know, have a lawn look, it's probably better to stay with one of these kind of alternatives. But the cushion spurge here is probably the one that looks, it has a very sheen green, you know, it skews its dullness as it's come out of winter, but it actually
we're all a little dull right now.
Yeah. We're all looking for that.
We're getting there.
We're trying to get to that shine, all of us. All right, Amber says she has creeping Charlie. I think a lot of people can relate. It's taking over the lawn. What is the best way to get rid of it?
What is creeping Charlie?
It's that little ground cover that has a little purplish flower as well. It likes the shade. It likes, you know, it's one heck of a plant. It's a great plant because it's it's kind of aggressive. It's in the same family as mint, so it gets up and it runs and it can start to take over your lawn. And if you've got it, you know it, and it is quite a tough competitor once it's in your lawn. There's a couple of things. You can try to smother it out. You could use some black plastic like this if it's in mass, or you know, put some cardboard and kind of try to smother it out. That's kind of the alternative if you don't want to spray for creeping Charlie. Otherwise, you're manually pulling it out, or there is actually a very good herbicide that you can use that's safe for the lawn. Takes the creeping Jenny, that's it right there, weed-free zone, works in cooler temperatures. One caveat is it works best in the fall because it's a perennial, so it starts to, as the weather gets cooler, the days get shorter, it starts to take down its food reserves, so it takes it right, you know, kind of right home, that chemical. So it actually works the best in the fall, but you can manage it that way. But if you don't want to use a herbicide like that, you're manually pulling it out or trying to smother it out.
Okay. Next up comes from one of our executive producers, Panya. She moved in the winter time, so she wants to know, is it too late to put in spring bulbs?
So there's all different types of bulbs, and it can be a wee little bit confusing. There's what I call summer bulbs that don't need cooling treatment, like gladiolas. They just get planted right out in the garden, and they don't need that stratification or that cooling period to bloom. And then there's the ones that you usually buy at the garden shop in the fall, your tulips, your hyacinths, your daffodils, all those guys. They need that cooling period. Now you can trick them by putting them in the refrigerator and cooling them that way in nature. You know, of course, under the ground in Minnesota, they get that cooling period. What you can do at garden shops right now, and I've got some examples right on the table there that you're looking at, I call them like landscaper bulbs, but you can go and buy, these have already been pre-cooled, so they're going to bloom, and you can buy those now, plant them as you would bulbs in the fall. But you don't buy the bulbs themselves now. You won't even find them.
So but these will come back next year.
Yep, sure,
like,
sure, yep, absolutely.
You can't even find bulbs right now for this kind of stuff?
Only the ones that don't need the cooling. The ones like these, you actually buy them in the fall. That smells good,
So
doesn't
good.
it?
I'm like, ah. Okay, another one question from David. Squirrels keep ransacking his bird feeder. Any tips to keep them from feasting on the bird seed?
By G's, by Jingos,
By
by
crikeys.
crikeys.
Here we go. Is
Another,
this
like
magic?
Creeping Jenny, another tough competitor. I have this bird feeder at my house. I've had it for years.
Okay.
And it kind of works. It kind of locks anything that perches on those perches that's heavy like a squirrel. You go
Here's
ahead
your
and push
demo.
it down.
So like if I were a squirrel
Yep, push it down. You've
Wait.
got some weight.
on this side, right?
We rehearsed this.
I know
We
did.
sure did.
Oh, here we go. Here
There
we
we
go.
go.
So
It
they
locks-
if they
it
go on
locks them
here
out.
and it
Right.
locks them out.
So birds are not weighty enough to lock that gate if you
that's-
like, but the squirrel will actually perch on that and it locks them right out. Hands down, twice on Tuesdays, the best feeder for keeping squirrels out. Now there are other things that you can do. You can put hot pepper, and you can buy cayenne pepper or hot pepper that
Hot
you
pepper?
can add to
Really?
your bird feed. I don't know.
What are the bird? But don't the
Well,
birds?
then the seed is supposed to
Yeah.
be hot, and then the squirrels don't like that
But the
taste.
birds do?
Yeah, see, I don't know.
Everyone
See,
hates
that
it.
seems kind of
Everyone
mean.
hates
I don't
it.
know.
No, the birds aren't bothered by the heat.
Okay.
The squirrels, in theory are. My experience is kind of a no. The other thing that people do is they actually feed squirrels or give them corn.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of keeps them occupied. So a little squirrel feeder with some corn kind of occupies them, keeps them out of your bird feed. But take a look at that bird feeder. It works a lot better than a baffle.
This is
The
sad.
squirrels-
Oh yeah, he's got a
There's a
tear.
He's got a really
'Cause
big
he's like, "I've been locked
alligator
out."
tear there. Crocodile tear, that's what they call it.
Sorry,
Right?
squirrel. Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry, no.
No, we're not. They're doing just fine. They're very
Yeah,
healthy in our
they're
yard.
quite plump.
Okay, final question from Beth. She says, how often should I be fertilizing my fruit trees?
So good rule of thumb, anything that's deciduous, that loses its leaves over the winter, they are the ones that require the early spring feeding. So once the leaves are out, and you don't want to fertilize when they're dormant because they're not taking up any fertilizer.
Okay.
But once the apple trees have leafed out, of course you want luscious fruit, and you would be surprised about the power of fertilizer really on all your plants. Doesn't matter whether they're flowering, fruit trees, whatever. The power of fertilizer goes a long way. So apple trees are a spring feeder. So feed them when the leaves come out before they flower, and then they have all that energy, they have all the extra nutrients to take that and set fruit. So spring feeding, and I always use an organic fertilizer because that's the way I garden.
Cool. Good stuff, Dale.
time.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. If you have
It's gonna feel like
questions-
spring.
Yeah, sure.
I gotta get a green
had
top
it,
like that.
and it's over.
I gotta get a green shirt like that.
Yeah,
That's
come
very
on.
springy. I like it.
You
Green
can borrow
bag.
it.